Hello, and welcome to our second webinar for this series hosted by the Future Healthcare Designers Mentoring Network. This webinar is entitled Journey Mapping Your Experience in Healthcare Design. And I would like to just go around and I will introduce myself and ask our panelists to introduce themselves. And if you could and just pass it to someone else on the panel, that would be great. So I'll start. I am Tammy Thompson. I am the president of the Institute for Patient-Centered Design, and welcome to this webinar. We're excited to have you here. I also serve as an instructor at North Carolina A&T State University. Really great to have you here, and we hope you get a lot out of this session. I'm going to pass it to you, Espy.
Hi, everyone. My name's Espy Harper, and I am the innovation leader at LS3P. It's wonderful to be here and can't wait to get talking to you.
I'm going to keep it alphabetical. I'm George Smith. I'm the Senior Architectural Project Manager with the Grady Health System in Atlanta and on the advisory board to the Institute for Patient-Centered Design with Tammy.
I'm not sure if we were going alphabetically, first name or last name, but I'll jump in. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Tim Fishking. I'm a healthcare practice leader with Moody Nolan. Have been involved in designing healthcare environments for 41 years.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Taft Cleveland. I'm a healthcare planner and an urban planner at Smith Group, and I've been practicing healthcare planning for almost 20 years.
And I guess that leaves me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike McKay. I am the healthcare practice leader for Erdman, which is an architecture, engineering, interior design company located in Madison, Wisconsin. Prior to me coming here to Erdman, I was the former director of planning, design, and construction and real estate for UW Health, the integrated health system for the University of Wisconsin. Glad to be here today.
Okay, thank you, team. Let's jump in and get started. So again, we are journey mapping the experience in healthcare design for our careers moving forward. And this is the agenda. We're going to kick it off with an introduction to the Jones Award program by SB. And then we'll continue with journey mapping your experience, some tips from our panel, as well as maximizing your spring semester. And then finally, we will wrap up with a little bit of Q&A and some QR codes that you could scan to get more information to jump right in with next steps. Okay, Espy.
So, we are so excited that we will be launching applications for January 19th for the Walter B. Jones Jr. FAIA Excellence Award for Aspiring Healthcare Architects. And those of you that are fortunate enough to participate in this webinar today will have early access. So we'll give you a chance to pull out your smartphones and just snap that QR code, which would take you to the application for the award. Okay, we'll tell you a little bit about what this entails. The Jones Award was set up primarily as a scholarship, really, and the purpose was to support students that were passionate about healthcare design and committed to advancing this field. There are financial and professional benefits from receiving the award, both gains in assistance in terms of financial aid and also an attendance registration for the annual Healthcare Design Conference. It offers networking and mentorship. So as awardees attend the conference, they get exposure to many in the industry, different firms. They get to participate in student competitions as well. And then there's career advancement. Many of the past recipients have leveraged this scholarship to really build their portfolio and secure internships and job positions. So we'll talk a little bit about eligibility. You do need to be a member of the Future Healthcare Designers Mentoring Network LinkedIn group, which is really easy to do. Once you get on LinkedIn, look for the group and join. You need to have the goal of becoming a healthcare architect, a medical planner, a healthcare designer, or construction leader. You should also be currently enrolled or a 2026 graduate. All of the candidates must also be enrolled in an NAAB accredited professional degree program in architecture, be a current student, or have completed such a program. Grades, a GPA of 2.75 is required or higher on a 4.0 scale. And then you should have the intentions of establishing a council record with NCARB. The application process. So all applications are done online. The submission includes the online form. You can submit links to your resume and portfolio and any other relevant work that you may have, as well as letters of recommendation. The timeline for the application will be, as we said, applications will open on January 19th. And those applications will close on June the 19th. We give a large window for this process so that you can have time to, one, join the LinkedIn group, establish a mentor from the LinkedIn group, and develop a relationship so that those recommendations have been built on what you've been doing over the past few months. Some tips for success. You really want to start preparing your materials early as you're developing portfolios and pulling aside projects and things that you want to feature and showcase your work within this application process. And make sure that you are filling out the application completely and seek feedback from your mentor or others about the application so that you can improve your chances. Other tips for the application, you want to emphasize storytelling. The committee is trying to get to know you as an applicant and all of your passion for healthcare design. Showcase relevant projects. And in some cases, we understand that school projects may not necessarily have a healthcare design component, but places where you can make connections between what you've discovered as a solution for that problem and how that might apply to healthcare would be fantastic. Try to avoid some of these common mistakes. Don't submit an incomplete application. Try not to use generic language and really tailor your portfolio. And then proofread, look for feedback, ensure that all your materials are error-free and visually consistent.
Thank you, SB. Did you want to look at the application? Should we maybe try to put that at the end of the discussion?
Let's move that to the end. And then if anyone has questions on the application, if you're able to get to the link through the QR code that we sent before and you're looking through it and you have questions, we can take those at the end.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's talk about your journey map. This is a great tool that we think will help you to visualize your future career and to get there one step at a time, where you are looking at where you are currently, what you've done so far, and identifying opportunities. So let's talk a little bit about journey mapping. It actually does create we say a timeline, but this is more of a continuum where if we map out from start to finish where you want to be, and obviously no one can tell the future, but it helps to set you up for success, to start to look at, well, where am I now? Where would I like to be? And what are those steps in between? And to always remain aware of those steps, because that's really half the battle, is knowing where you need to go and understanding where you are in comparison to that. So we would love to just suggest some things that you might look at as a student in undergrad or graduate studies. And then as you go about gaining the experience that you need in this profession for your licensure at some point, or for you to become a professional in your chosen career. So what is the value? It does help you to identify your strengths. When you can look at what you've done so far, where you have excelled, any awards that you've received, for example, it's a great morale booster to just look at the accomplishments that you have so far. And then it gives you the opportunity to look at gaps and opportunities where you might strengthen your experience over time. It's a great way for you to connect your academic experience in class to where you want to be as a professional. I find that this is just highly motivational for students when you can look at any course that you're taking and understand from that course, how might I apply what I'm learning to my career? How would I use this in the profession? It's a great motivator for you on those long nights for studying or project work, to see the big picture of how this will help you in the future in your career. The other thing is that as you continue to move forward, keep in mind that this is not a one-shot deal of working on this journey map. This is something that you should revisit regularly and update so that, again, you're able to identify your strengths and areas for improvement. Team, did I miss anything? Is there anything you might want to add?
Tammy, I would just add for the group that what I take away from this process is it gives others a nice snapshot and overview of your entire journey. It's easy when you're focused on one thing, in this case, let's say it's your application, to focus on perhaps work experience in school, but there are other things that you are doing that matter. And the journey mapping can bring a lot of that to life and to the attention of jurors and others who might be reviewing your application.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, let's keep moving and think about how we might get started with that. What do you want in your journey map? Well, we've highlighted a few areas that we anticipate you will see along this journey, and you could add whatever you would like to this because it is yours and it should be personalized. First of all, to start, obviously there's education, where you are in a field of study related to the built environment. And what I would recommend is, if you have not met with your academic advisor to ensure that you're on the right track, taking the courses that are needed toward graduation, that you take a moment and pause and request that appointment. It can be very valuable. We have seen many students who think they are on track to graduate and realize that they have missed a course somewhere along the way, or picked up extra courses that are actually not counting toward their graduation. Now, if you choose to do that for your own enrichment, that's great. But if you do it by mistake, you might regret it. So I would advise that you go ahead and reach out to that person, look at your curriculum guide, and make sure that you understand all the necessary courses for you to graduate. Then even start looking ahead, if your goal is to become a licensed architect, at the exam preparation and how you might start, when you might start, because the rules have changed from when I took the exam, and students are allowed to learn more, to start their education, or I'm sorry, to start their experience sooner, and then also to start taking the exam sooner. So find out all the details required there so you know what's ahead of you. You will have work experience likely throughout this educational process. So you might have summer internships. You want to make sure that you are gaining that experience in the hours needed. So we recommended on the first webinar to go ahead and establish that council record with NCARB so that you will know all the categories necessary. You want to make sure that every hour of experience you're gaining could count if possible. Then there are volunteer roles as well that might help enrich your experience, particularly enriching your experience in the healthcare profession, right? Because this is a specialty. So in addition to the architectural experience that you're gaining from working at a firm, getting other practical experience in the field, working in healthcare or even volunteering in healthcare could help you to understand. It could add much more meaning to your career journey. So feel free to go ahead and do that as well. We encourage it. Think about the travel that you have, whether it's spring break, summer vacation, study abroad opportunities. What sets an architect aside or apart from all the other candidates? I'd like to ask our panel if you would chime in here and talk about, whether or not you have seen travel experience and journals and sketchbooks that actually help a candidate to stand out, and what recommendations you might have for some of these other items like travel, networking, and enrichment.
Well, I'm going to take the usual, I'll jump in first because I hate a quiet screen, and say that under education, there would also be personal enrichment education. Look at the professional magazines, look at the trades. Healthcare Design is a free magazine that you can subscribe to, and it will list projects that are of note all over the place. And some of them may be nearby or maybe just a weekend trip, but the opportunities to see how they present in magazines and then to actually go and experience the space can be an incredible multiplier to what you think the space might be. Similarly, reading, if you're interested in the medical field, what does it take to do what the folks you are design or will be designing spaces for? What does it take for them to do it? What are some of the challenges they have in an OR or in a patient unit? As for job experiences, I would say do not limit yourself to just looking for internships with design fields. One of the folks that I worked with when I first got into healthcare design on the owner's side, if you will, was with a signage manufacturer who was doing an installation and getting an understanding as to how the rooms worked from a wayfinding standpoint and nomenclature. And I picked up a whole lot more the first year than I did in school on those kinds of things. And so don't just limit yourself to looking for a firm or looking just at the facilities side of a healthcare organization. And if needs be, go in and look at the quote unquote candy stripers. Look at other places that you can get involved with in a hospital or a medical practice in your neighborhood. Just keep your eyes open and think, well, I hadn't thought about this. Let's try and let's see what that will do to enhance what I'm trying to educate, what I'm trying to do, because anything you pick up works towards your education if you can find a way to apply it in a way that makes sense.
And just to add on, I'm Tim Fishking, and just to add on to what George is saying, healthcare campuses and environments make up a lot of different building types. So I think it's important to understand architecture and be a fan of good design. Look at healthcare facilities, but also look at other facilities that would likely be embedded within a healthcare campus. The second thing is, as you develop in your career, you'll begin to understand the importance of comprehending the business of healthcare. It's one thing to be able to understand it from a design standpoint, but you become more trusted advisors to your clients and more valuable to your clients if you begin to understand the business side of healthcare.
I was going to add to that, Tim, that I was fortunate to travel abroad, studied urban planning and architecture in Paris, France. And for architecture students, that's a really good opportunity to go to a different culture, different country, and to learn about their architecture. If you are not fortunate to have that opportunity to pay for that, you can still have that same experience on your college campus. Look at the buildings that you have there and start to sketch. Start to look at the building types, not only just your campus, but even the buildings that are in your neighborhood or in your local city. This would give you another exposure to just different building types that Tim talked about. But also, I want to encourage you to always, carry a sketchbook or um, a journal and just write down your ideas and your sketches there. I do that every day. And not just when we were in school, but it's just a practice that you keep. And then lastly, the one thing about the enrichment that I encourage students is to not only learn the skills in architecture, but learn those soft skills, learn how to engage conversations with all walks of life, from the young to the old. Start working on those soft skills, because a lot of times those are the one or two factors that could help you get a job, or get you that opportunity just by learning how to get along and to understand the needs of people.
So I would tag on to Taft's comment about a sketchbook, because most hospitals don't like folks to come in and break out the cell phone and start taking pictures. There are privacy concerns as well as security concerns about photographing. But to take a minute to get a quick character sketch, if you will, of the space you're in. I haven't had anybody get chased out of our lobby for sitting down for a minute to sketch something. And to touch back on both that and Tim, urban planning, if it doesn't get in the way of your degree requirements, it wouldn't hurt to take a class or two, because hospitals are big cities. And how do you zone for big cities? Transportation in big cities, communication in big cities. And you haven't seen urban politics until you get on the OR floor and listen to the surgeons and the anesthesiologists and the nurses all fight over 1 extra square foot of office space.
I'll just underscore what you've already heard, that design and communication media, having an awareness and examples of that in your work is important. When I'm looking at potential job applicants in our practice, I like to be able to see their work and have them show me and talk to me about how they approach that problem solving, whether it's sketching or it's a finished design product or something in between. So always have that at your fingertips. I'm like Taft and others here. I carry a sketchbook with me. We went through school, me and my classmates in our time, and drawing was still a big part of it. So being able to express what tools you use and how you use them to solve problems, even if it's with the computer and various software platforms, being literate in that and being willing to express your opinions in that is terribly important.
Okay, thank you, team. Lots of great information here. I would say in everything that you've heard, as you go to gain this experience and exposure to what we've just heard, please be sure that you take time every semester if you're a student, and at least once a year if you're a graduate, to update this journey map. It needs to show up. If you have done it, if you've had that experience, there should be a place for it on your journey map. So you might ask, well, what does a journey map look like? Well, it's up to you. You could, if I go back a slide, you could certainly do something fun and creative like this. Or if you just want to start with the basic of understanding what information to include, we have, and we're suggesting this to start. And feel free to take a screenshot here. But this is a great way for you to start making your map. So I'm going to start on the left and sort of work my way to the right and talk about the importance of these categories. Now, this is yours, so make it your own. These are suggestions from us. You might have others that you want to include on your journey map. Please feel free to do that. It's yours. You own it. And it will tell a story about your career progression. A great story that you might even consider sharing with your mentor to find out what they might recommend next for you. So here we go. In whatever stage you are, whether it is your first or second, third or fourth year in undergrad, whether you're in grad school or whether you are a new grad, you might want to just list that. Make sure you leave space to write your major and keep that front and center. That's important as well. Then you think about the second column I have here is the term. So is this your semester? Is this one year or the next. If you have specific goals, I had goals when I graduated with my master's degree on how soon I wanted to earn my license. And as I tracked that, it was helpful to see the progress, see the tests that I had taken, the tests that were still ahead of me, the studying that needed to happen, any preparation and books that I needed to get. So all of that. So you set the term for what makes most sense for your life and then track it in that way. So the next column, we have education. This includes your main courses in school, whether that is your core courses that you start with, or if you're moving on to your more advanced courses, getting into the field. List that from your curriculum guide. Make sure you understand what's ahead. Make sure you check off. There's something satisfying to me about checking off something that I've completed. I don't know if others have that same satisfaction, but it could be helpful to just see your progress. And it's also very helpful that when you're meeting with your mentor for the first time, for them to see your progress so that they know how to best advise you and provide additional support. Looking at the exam preparation, like I said, some exams you can start taking. So you might want to understand when you could start taking these exams and think about the preparation necessary. Ask questions, ask around for good resources that others have found helpful, and keep that top of mind. Experience. Again, this is sort of peppered into your career preparation. It starts in school, and you will continue through summer internships. One year I got a summer internship and I loved it so much, and the company was happy with my work, and they decided to offer part-time work even when the semester started. So I worked year round and just, would pick up hours here and there working several hours a week in order to gain more experience. I found it to be incredibly helpful because I would take my school projects that I was working on in and show it to my coworkers and get their feedback as well. And because I was working in a healthcare firm and I was working on healthcare projects, it made perfect sense. So think about that as, what is your experience that you are seeking? Now, this could be a job, an internship. It could be something, quite frankly, to George's point, that is not necessarily working in a firm. Always look for ways to connect the dots back to the experience that will enrich you as an aspiring architect. So, for example, there are things we're using our creative brains all the time. What I find is that it's very easy for me to make connections that maybe some people who are not in creative fields struggle with, So, where I might say, well, how might I actually connect a job in the financial aid office of my university to my career goals of becoming a licensed architect? How do I make that leap? Think about it. Think about whether you're listening to people and you're trying to sharpen that skill, because that is very important as an architect, to listen to others and take notes and understand their needs. That's something that you're doing in multiple jobs, whether it's in your field or not. Now, ideally, you want to get an internship at some point in a firm and understand that. But even when you're not, look at ways that you are gaining and sharpening that skill set and how that could transfer to the career that you want. Then also look at volunteer roles. Is it possible to volunteer at your local hospital if you're interested in healthcare design? There's so much that you can gain from that. Observing the operations, like George mentioned, I had an opportunity to shadow the police team for a hospital. And before 9 o'clock, we had already walked like miles and miles of steps in that hospital because they were rounding on all the areas to check on them. It helped me as a designer to think about the security needs for each unit and how we might make things easier for the staff. So there's always something that you can get out of it. And that's why that journal that Taft mentioned is so important, because only you can connect those dots along your journey map. So go ahead and do that in any experience that you're getting. And we've talked about these others, but we'll just note down here, note something for each one whenever you have that opportunity. Now, there is no expectation that any row would be full, because we realize that your studies take a priority. You have to pass those classes and so forth and excel in them. And so, but what we would recommend is that as you complete your journey map, you look for those gaps. And if you see that, wow, this experience category is empty for 2 years, then that gives you an opportunity to look at your next steps and what you might plan. Anything from the team?
I would just like to add that getting in the habit of doing this as early as your schooling career, is something that you can also take with you for many years afterwards. You're often asked to report on things that you've done, recreate your resume, refresh your portfolio, and looking back at a map like this will really help you to remember all of the things that are a part of building your own personal brand.
How do we tie this to where you are today in spring semester for those students or for those recent grads? We are moving into have moved into the beginning of the year. Where are the opportunities? Well, let's take a look. So the first thing that we have here is just some basic things to keep in mind. You do have a set of courses if you are enrolled this semester. Let's go ahead, as I mentioned, and look for those connection points. What am I learning? How might I apply that in the field? It's actually a great conversation to have with your mentor, right? So telling your mentor, these are my classes I'm taking this semester. How do you see that fitting? I'm zoning out when it comes to this particular class, but how might I just sort of reinvigorate my interest in this class just based on what I know will be necessary in the future? So have those conversations, think about those things. Look for opportunities to stand out in your class. I will tell you that when as an instructor, when I receive a request for a recommendation from a student and I can't remember that student in my class, that tells me something. This is not the time to shrink to the back of the class, but to really stand out and interact with your professor. It doesn't mean that you have to be front and center, that you have to always be the one to answer questions, and that you have to, stand out in front of your classmates, particularly if you're shy. You could, but make an effort to ask questions, to reach out to your professor offline even and ask any questions if you need help. Make that connection to where your work and your performance is memorable. If it's memorable, then just think about the difference that will make in your letter of recommendation so that your professor doesn't have to struggle to think of, well, what can I say about this student's performance? Give that person something to say. And also stay on track. A lot of times that's just as simple as keeping up with the work so that you're not submitting late work or missing opportunities. So keep that in mind. Once you're able to do that, then it puts you in a great position to request that letter of recommendation and even inquire about other opportunities. Sometimes the faculty might know about scholarships, grants, and other opportunities that may interest you. You might not know until you ask. Looking at things like your resume and portfolio, I'm going to ask the team if you have any tips to share on these last two headings.
Absolutely. Now is the time that many firms are putting out their position openings for summer internships, and portfolios and are really important. Some people, particularly when you are still in school or in your early semesters of school, the resume may show your working experience as being in retail or other areas. You know, you're still young and you haven't had an opportunity to really work in a firm. So we really rely heavily on the samples of your work to understand your thinking process, how you communicate graphically. And so it's very, very important that your portfolio be digitally ready, print ready, easy to send, clear diagrams, um, provide some narration, make sure you leave some white space on the page, but really take time. In fact, I would often say that less is more in some of your early portfolio work so that we really understand the most important projects that you've done, the most successful projects that you've done, to really get a glimpse of what you're capable of doing.
I would add mix the media. Going back to Taft's sketchbooks, if you've got ways to take some of those and incorporate them into hardline drawings or digital drawings and renderings, just again to show your diverse skill sets. And it may be an example of an opening page to a paper, something that just talks about your ability to put words together beyond just the resume. And so just look at anything that you've got available that can highlight the fact that you're interested in designing to heal folks.
I would add that you don't have to worry about it all being finished product. It can be works in progress that's illustrating how you approach a problem solving, the process you're using to explore an idea. Those are all acceptable content in terms of my opinion. It's easy to get hung up on thinking you're generating a collection of, I'll just say, collection of final artwork. And that's not necessarily the case, although it's good to have one or two examples of that. But again, you're trying to tell a story about how you approach problem solving, how you explore ideas, and then communicate those ideas to a potential audience or client.
Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but you're used to that, right? So with design competitions, I know that you have led at least one team to a successful through a successful design competition as the winning team, because that's how I met you. Would you have any advice for students who are considering entering design competitions?
I would say you want to, if the opportunity presents itself, to certainly take advantage of it. I think where we were successful, Tammy, in the example you brought up, it was a passionate. I had a personal experience with what the competition was about, as did several of the team members that I brought together. So there was a lot of passion and personal interest driving our participation in that effort. That certainly helped. I think that's what pushed us over the edge. There are also a lot of competitions we've entered that we haven't won. So we definitely, as a practice here at Erdman, try to do one or two a year, where we're convening a good cross section from our company and getting folks together to explore a problem and enter. It's a good way, I think, for you to be able to explore some of the what if scenarios that you don't necessarily find in the day in and day out work. But I would say pursue something of interest and of passion, and you bring a lot more to the table when you're doing it that way.
I would suggest too that you reach out to other classmates, because a couple of the major conferences have healthcare competitions that bring student teams together. PDC brings in from various disciplines, but all the folks have come from the same class in the architecture school. And healthcare design also brings in students from the same universities to compete against two or three other teams on a specific project under a short time frame. And so don't just enter on your own. See if you can't pull a team together for some of these other team approach competitions.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about networking. Many students on the line may already participate in AIAS and other student organizations. There are professional organizations that you've learned about, and it's a great place to meet professionals and find your mentor there. But we'd like to focus a little bit on the mentoring network because everyone you see on the panel is part of this mentoring network. We are available to serve as mentors for students and young professionals. And we would love to just sort of break the ice a bit to give you some encouragement on how you might jump in and find a mentor. So this is relatively easy. We've tried to put it all here for you. We have over 100 people on the network, and most of them are in the mentor role, right? So it's a great wealth of knowledge for you to tap into for your projects that you might have, to learn and to network, to think about where you want to work after graduation, all of that. The Future Healthcare Designers Mentoring Network is a LinkedIn group. So if you would join LinkedIn, create a profile if you haven't already. It is free to join. And then join our mentoring network. It gives you this opportunity to introduce yourself in a post. Hey, I'm a student and I'm studying, and I would like to learn more about fill in the blanks, right? And then ask, is there anyone who might have time to mentor me? I'm interested in working in the fill in the blank area, whether it's you're talking about you want to go out to Chicago, or you want to, work in California. Talk about where you want to work. Try to find a mentor in that area. Talk about the specialty if you know it already. Try to find a mentor in that area of specialty, and then set up a meeting. Everyone on that network who is a mentor is ready to help. So ask for that meeting, ask them to carve out some time to set up a virtual meeting and talk with you, and then be prepared to share your journey map, even if it's not complete. All right, because this is a person who is there to help support you along the way. So fill it in as much as you can, and then ask for advice, ask for updates of, what you might know about the field and opportunities that others may know to help you to better understand what's next for you. Anything from the group?
I was just going to add that not only just look at the organizations that you are in on campus, look at those other health organizations that may be affiliated with your hospital or within your neighborhood or your community that you live in. I've found that expanding your knowledge to others who are more understanding and have more knowledge in healthcare is always a good, well-rounded way to learn more about that, and just have that be an extra tool in your tool belt to learn in addition to what you learn in school in architecture.
Okay, just quick note on time management. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything about this or how important it is to just sort of staying on track for your career. Any thoughts from the group?
Definitely have time in your schedule to do some of these things. It only takes 30 minutes to maybe 60 minutes every other week or every week, depending on how diligent you want to be. But the main thing is consistency. And for me, going through school and even in professional practice, I have to schedule everything in order for it to remain consistent and on my to-do list, if you will. So don't be afraid to bring a little bit of that rigor to your life with this.
Absolutely. And I would say definitely in terms of your portfolio, take it piece by piece. Don't wait till the last minute on that. There are times where we can tell as professionals if that portfolio was done at the last minute. We receive sometimes fuzzy images or they're not high quality photographs. And so you want to really take that time, give yourself allocate time during your breaks in between semesters to finish up any drawings that you didn't complete for the project, to refine anything, make quick edits, and then document what you've done so that you can have all of that prepared when it's time to finally assemble the entire portfolio.
Make sure that you make time for yourself as well. So here we are in our Q&A session. I want to open that and ask if we could monitor the chat to find out. Looks like we have some questions or comments in the chat already. And I'm going to open that for Q&A as well. So feel free to ask a question, and Taft will turn it over to you.
Well, folks,
I'm sorry,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, SB.
I was just going to say, while folks are typing in their questions, if you don't mind, if you're attending here in the chat, just kind of shout out your name and where you're at in that journey. If you're a student, graduating, what year you are, we'd love to hear who we have on the line.
Also, if you have raised your hand and you rather just ask your question, just keep in mind that we are recording and we'll post this on the video for this on YouTube afterwards. So if you're comfortable unmuting, we're happy to do that. Just raise your hand. If not, feel free to just ask your question in the chat or in the Q&A, and then we will read that question out.
And like you said, everything is recorded. So I know Richard had a comment earlier. I see a hand up for Richard, but I also saw a hand up for, I believe her name was Adriana, if that's how you pronounce your name.
Okay. So Richard, I'm going to ask you to unmute, and I'm going to do that via Zoom. You should be able to at this point.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much for this opportunity. This is my second time joining the live session. I'm Richard, and I'm currently pursuing my Master of Architecture in Ball State University. I'm originally from Ghana, and for the past 1 year and some few months, I've been really intrigued or interested in going into healthcare as a specialization in architecture, having been exposed to the HCD and also the PDC in March 2025. It was very wonderful. So I've been interested in indoor environmental quality for healthcare systems. I've seen how poor indoor environments have impacted patient health and even the people who like the healthcare providers. I've seen how it's really drained them and all that. Currently, I'm collaborating with a friend of mine who recently completed from Rochester University. He's a radiologist, and we are trying to see how we can improve the indoor states or indoor quality of those CT rooms. And from there, we are looking at expanding into MRIs and all that. I'm also looking into behavioral healthcare and all that. Recently, I finished the competition and submitted an entry for the Rebecca Lewis healthcare design competition. So I'm really excited and I'm waiting for the results. But the reason why I had my hand up was to really talk about how challenging it is for international students or internationals to get mentors. I've tried before, it didn't work, partly because of maybe time constraint or something, but it's very difficult. It's very challenging, and I want to voice out on this platform. I don't want to go to the LinkedIn page and type and not get response, because I've also seen how engagement is on the LinkedIn platform. So I want to use this as an opportunity to throw my let me say, shoot my shot out there. I need a mentor who would guide me. I spoke to one architect from MKM, and we spoke about how I can even start my journey to the EDAC certification. I emailed him again, but I didn't hear from him. So it's very challenging. It's very dicey. We talk about networking and all that. We put in the efforts, but sometimes it's discouraging. So I just want to put it out there. I need a mentor. Yeah, it's not really a question, but
Tammy,
Richard,
go ahead.
yes, please go ahead, Espy.
I just wanted to say that from a mentorship standpoint, so both of the awardees of the Walter B. Jones Award from last year were mentees who were international students. And so while even for me personally, I love to be a mentor because I do want to see our profession grow and people that are passionate about healthcare design. For me, the difficulty is I can't even hire the people that I mentor because the particular firm that I work for does not do sponsorship for international employees. However, there are many firms that still do that. And so the connection can be that you have a mentor maybe that cannot hire you if they have some constraints because of this visa sponsorship, but are willing to make connections globally to help you in that pursuit. I would say just be encouraged, and sometimes a no is just to, or the person gets busy. Is you can have more than one mentor, and you can kind of keep your hands open to the different opportunities. Sometimes a mentor can meet with you on a regular basis. Sometimes they can meet with you on a less regular basis, but keep them in your network and keep reaching out, even if it's just a note to say, hi, I'm still here and I'm doing great. And here's things that I've been doing. An update sometimes will prompt that mentor to get back to you much sooner than just trying to schedule a meeting. If they feel like they're following your progress, they can come in at a point in time and help you when you have questions. So that's just a little bit of encouragement for you.
I'd also like to talk a little bit about professional etiquette as it relates to working in the field. And this is any field because I work primarily in healthcare with physicians and nurses, and I have an opportunity to meet lots of people from different walks of life. As George mentioned, it's almost like a city working for a hospital. And the thing is, people are busy and we respect each other's time and schedules in that way. There are some tips that I would love to provide for students who are seeking to reach out to busy professionals. You are busy as students as well in terms of, how to increase your chances of getting the resources and the help that you want. So the first is, look for, as we mentioned, multiple opportunities to connect. We have over 100 people on the network. Make posts about your updates, interesting projects. What you might find is that if you are posting an interesting project that you have developed as an architecture student, or that you have collaborated with other new early professionals or students on a competition, people are interested. They want to see that. And sometimes it will spark interest in someone who is focused on that particular area of expertise. So for example, if you have I'm just going to throw out an area, the neonatal intensive care unit or NICU, right? So if you post a project on the NICU, you might find someone who's currently working on a NICU project or a commissioned project. You might find someone who has done some research in that area. So they will connect and respond based on what they're seeing from you, as that shows your passion, demonstrates your passion for that subject area. The other thing is be willing to meet with them, even if it's just a quick 15-minute or 20-minute meeting, asking for a time on their calendar. Make sure that when you book time on someone's calendar, that you actually are finding out what is most convenient for them, if it means getting up really early in order to make that meeting so that you can get time on their calendar, maybe first thing in the morning before their day starts and gets really busy, and then respect that time. What I would suggest is that most professionals are keeping calendars, and if it's not on their calendar, it doesn't exist in their day. That's the reality that we live in. And so we would encourage you to also keep a calendar and make sure that when you schedule those appointments, that you're able to meet those appointments and participate. And it's a great way to just grab that time while you are able. I will tell you, it is the same thing in the profession. If I am requesting time with our CEO or someone who has a very busy schedule, even if I'm requesting time with a patient to get their feedback on their experience, I sort of have to work and make myself flexible to their schedule to ensure that I get that time and that opportunity to connect with them. So those are a few things that you might try. Showcase your passions and see who responds to that. And also, when you get a response, make sure that you're able to work around their schedule to connect with them. Okay, we realize that we are short on time and we want to be respectful of the time that we have here with you. We appreciate your time today. Want to share with you a few more things. If you missed the last webinar, which was our first in the series, entitled Preparing for a Rewarding Career in Healthcare Design, please scan this QR code where you can find the YouTube playlist for our webinars. This one will be included there, and you will also find that we have sort of divided them into little topics or micro learnings that you can enjoy from that YouTube channel. The second is, if you like this webinar series and want to continue, we have another one coming up for you on April 14th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Scan the QR code here and you can get that link to register for that webinar. This will be one where we are attempting to prepare you for what is coming next in the summer, whether it's an internship or even if you didn't get an internship and you're looking for ways to enrich your summer experience. Join us on April 14th, and we're happy to share that information with you. And then, of course, we are inviting you to join the Future Healthcare Design Mentoring Network. We really want to see your projects and hear your questions and answer those questions for you about the field. And then you can find us in a couple of ways. It's probably easier for you to simply search groups for future healthcare designers on LinkedIn, and then you'll find our group, and feel free to join. Espy?
Again, here's the QR code. You can go ahead and take an image of that, and you all will have access early to the application, which opens on January the 19th officially, and the due date is June 19th of 2026. We hope that you all apply and join us at Healthcare Design in October, which will be held in New Orleans.
If you submitted a question that we did not get a chance to answer on this live webinar, please feel free to list that question in the LinkedIn group, Future Healthcare Designers Mentoring Network, and we will get back with you on the group with the answer to that question. The other thing that I'll mention is that we're so excited about our two scholars from 2025. And I'm trying to see if they're shown here on the screen. I believe they are. Yes. And they got some amazing exposure. This conference had thousands of attendees. So to Espy's point, even when there are limitations where your mentor may or may not be able or to hire or have an opening at their particular firm, the beauty of this award is that they were showcased on the main stage with thousands of people, where we read their background, a little bit about them, and then they walked around with their medals the entire conference so that people would recognize them in sessions and network with them, pull them aside and exchange contact information. So it was an amazing opportunity for exposure. So we highly recommend that you apply for the award. If you are awarded this and have the opportunity to come out to the conference, it would be great exposure for those who are seeking employment. Thank you for joining us. We enjoyed the questions and we look forward to serving as resources for you. Okay, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.